The new Lloydminster Nissan has moved into the Big Blue Building on Highway 16 West, formerly known as Border City RV. Shop in comfort with over 100 new and pre-owned vehicles all inside our giant showroom. This is the largest and the longest indoor sale in the history of the Border City. Sales and service all under one big roof. Come check out the massive savings in this massive building. The new Lloydminster Nissan, now in the Big Blue Building on Highway 16 West. The new Lloydminster Nissan. We won't sell you a car, we'll help you buy one.
Local people. Local news and events. Local sports. Local matters. For all things Lloydminster area, this is Live with Kurt Price.
Hey, welcome to the new Lloydminster Nissan Exhibition Grill here at the Lloydminster Exhibition. It's excited to be back for 2024, and we're excited at the new Lloydminster Nissan that it's getting a little colder and we're inside. We have moved to the Big Blue Building on Highway 16 West, and we have about 100 vehicles under the roof, new and pre-owned. We actually have more vehicles. We have some outside now as well, as inventory keeps increasing all the time. But we invite you to stop out at the new Lloydminster Nissan. And, you know, it used to be so easy. You could just drive through the lot. What do they have? Even if you're looking for pre-owned especially, what do they have? Drive through the lot, right? Well, now you can't really do that. So we invite you to come indoors. We don't want you to shy away. I was down there the other day. I watched a couple come in. One of our sales guys went up and just said, hey, can I help you out? And they said, we're just here to look. Okay, go look. We're not going to, there's no pressure or anything like that. We know that sometimes you just want to take a look at the vehicle, so come in, have a look. And right now at the new Lloydminster Nissan, when you make your purchase, you get free tires for the life of your vehicle. So stop in and see us today at the new Lloydminster Nissan. I also want to tell you about BioClean Disaster Services, where their commitment is to you and your family. Damage from wind, fire, flood, asbestos contamination, that brings on a lot of stress to your life. And the biggest stress is your family. And BioClean Disaster Services is a local company that's going to take care of your property, going to take care of your possessions, but they're going to take care of you and your family. That means keeping you up to date on what is happening. So serving Lloydminster, Wainwright, Bonnyville, Cold Lake, you see their name everywhere. If it should happen, and I hope it doesn't to you because it's happened to me at some point, then you want to call BioClean Disaster Services. And it's real easy to get a hold of them. Local company here in Lloydminster, 1-833-246-8326. The Aztec Safety Challenge, presented by Wild Rose Pump and Compression, now has the full draw available, and all the action begins on the ice next Thursday at the Lloyd Golf and Curling Center. Now, if you miss getting tickets, you can still catch up on all the action here at the Lloydminster Exhibition in the Synergy Credit Union family-free fun environment. So 2 local rinks, the DeConnick Smith and Armstrong rinks, are also competing, along with some of the biggest names in curling. So you may see these people around town, that's for sure, out in restaurants, eating, doing all kinds of stuff. Botcher, Gushu, Adine, they're all here, just to name a few. Tickets are available now for the Marwayne Community Playground Association's Comedy Night, which features a very well-known comedian in this area, Kelly Taylor. Kelly will be in Marwayne on Saturday, February 10th. Supper at 6, the show at 8. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, and the night also features a dance. Tickets for that are $75 each. Lloydminster and District Fish and Game Association is hosting their Family Wildlife and Awards Banquet on Saturday, January 27th. Myself, along with Heather Clagus, will be your MCs for that event, although I notice on the poster it just says Heather. I'm not going to take that as a hit to my pride, though. Along with the wonderful meal that they have each year, there will also be entertainment by Magic Ben, who has been seen a lot on television. Tickets are only $50 each and available only until January 23rd by visiting Wildside Outdoors, or you can call Dwayne 780-808-6420. The food is always the main draw, though. The entertainment's great, but the food is incredible. And the Lloydminster Exhibition's Chase the Ace here is sitting at over $63,000. There's another draw tonight, of course. 36 cards remain in the deck. Tickets are just $10. Improve your odds. Get 3 for $25, 8 for $50, or 20 for $100. Stop in here at the Lloydminster Exhibition. Get those today, or you can use your credit card at lloydx.com. LLoydminster.com. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Colleen Young, MLA for Lloydminster and area, is here to visit with us. And we got a lot to talk about, especially that carbon tax. I know you got a lot of questions about that. I got a lot of questions about that. So we'll get that from Colleen when we come back.
At Lloydminster and District Co-op, membership matters more. Because being part of a co-op means you're connected to something bigger than yourself. From long-held legacy by those who built our communities, to people you call family, friends, and neighbors. When you're a Lloyd Co-op member, you're an owner in a local business that prides itself on purpose alongside profit. You earn cash back, you help support causes that matter most, and you're building a better way of life for the next generation. Membership matters more.
I'm Brian Zinchuk of PipelineOnline.ca. I used to be a pipeliner, and I've spent the last 15 years reporting on energy in Saskatchewan. PipelineOnline.ca provides comprehensive coverage of light oil, heavy oil, lithium, helium, power production including coal, wind, solar, geothermal, natural gas, and nuclear. There's a lot happening in Saskatchewan's energy sector, and Pipeline Online is there for all of it. No one else comes even close.
It's more than just taxes at LNA CPA. Assurance, accounting, retirement planning, estate planning, business consulting, financial consulting, farm program support, and bookkeeping. But yes, there is always taxes. The team at LLA CPA is committed to helping you achieve your best results and will be there to assist you every step of the way. LLA CPA, with offices in Provost, Vermilion, and Lloydminster.
At Jason Arden Associates Cooperators, we're proud to be a top-rated local insurance company that offers flexible solutions and expert advice for all your insurance and investment needs. We'll work with you to tailor your insurance specific to your needs, and we offer investment advice that always puts you first. At Cooperators, one of our core values is to support the communities we live in. When you support Jason Arden Associates Cooperators, you are supporting local nonprofits and initiatives. Since 2020, we have donated $60,000 to local nonprofits, youth sponsorships, and various special projects. When was the last time your insurance company did that?
How can you help support the oil and gas industry and jobs in Western Canada? The answer is closer than you think. Sell your scrap metals to PWM Steel. PWM sells scrap iron to Evraz, located in Regina. Evraz's #1 customer is the energy sector, building pipes and plates for the oil and gas industry. PWM Steel is your locally owned metal recycler and steel service center in the area. Plus, they're a strong supporter of the community. PWM Steel, your top steel supplier for Alberta and Saskatchewan for 40 years.
At Diamond 7 Meats, we work with local farm families to provide a high-quality product and a great selection for you. Try our mouth-watering smokies, pulled pork, roast beef, and more, made pure and natural with no additives or fillers. We offer custom processing, and our experienced team works for you to provide a selection of sausage, burgers, and jerkies made to your specifications. Take your grilling to the next level with a Yoder smoker. Complete the grilling experience with Canadian-made, award-winning line of House of Q barbecue sauces. We're locally owned and operated, and we look forward to seeing you today.
Welcome back. We're at the new Lloydminster Nissan Exhibition Grill at the Lloydminster Exhibition where Chase the Ace happens tonight. And Colleen Young is the MLA for Lloydminster and District. And she is here today to talk to us about a few things, including the carbon tax. But first of all, Colleen, how are you doing? Like, you came through what was going to be a by-election.
A contested nomination.
A contested nomination, yes.
Yes.
And then it didn't happen. You spent most of the summer, I would say.
I spent a lot of time from, well, first of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
and
yes.
thanks for having me here, Kurt, this morning. Yes, I spent a lot of time from March, April of the spring right through until November, working my butt off. Out there meeting people, listening to people, visiting people. I was invited into many households on many doorsteps and kitchen tables, listening to issues and concerns, but getting people's support and trust in me as their candidate once again.
So it's an election year, so does that give you a little head start maybe?
It does,
Yeah.
And I'm glad. I mean, it puts you to work. It gets you out there meeting the folks that are your supporters and those that aren't even, and having those tough conversations at times with them. But it's good for them to know that I am wanting to be their representative and their advocate, and I'm listening and taking their concerns.
For me, I looked at it as like a challenge from within the party. How's your relationship with the party, Colleen?
Well, it is a challenge within the party,
But how much support was there from the party?
Well, I was on my own, basically.
I guess you are.
I am on my own.
I guess he was going to be too.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That is the challenge, is for you to go out there and garner your support, sell memberships in the party, and then ultimately get those people out to vote. In the end, it turned out that even though it started out as a very contested nomination, that my opponent pulled out at the last second, and we didn't have to have a contested nomination, and I was acclaimed. But I mean, you still have to work for it. You can never assume anything, and you have to get out there and get the support that is needed in order to win.
What did you learn? What did you hear from people as you're out there visiting?
I think people, for the vast majority of Saskatchewan residents and in my constituency, they're happy with what our government is doing. They're very proud of some of the things that we have stepped up to push back on the federal government, but also implement within our province. And there are still many concerns out there. Healthcare being one of the strongest ones, of course, as we all know, but it is something that they also recognize that our government is investing a lot into and putting a plan in place that is working and is starting to see some progress.
What did I see by March, end of March? Supposed to be caught up on surgeries, right?
On our surgical,
Yeah.
yes. Within the first 6 months of this year alone, we were over 47,000, which is the largest surgery catch-up we've done in a long time, and moving forward on that as well. So, we will continue to push. It is a challenge across the country. I don't want to talk about COVID, but we need to start back there. It was a challenge for everybody, and that caused across the globe a number of issues in the healthcare sector, and it came to fruition for many of us, including the province of Saskatchewan. But we did put a 4-point healthcare plan in place and have bought seats in other provinces, as a matter of fact, in order to start working on our healthcare plan. I just recently, back in November, had the opportunity to announce 16 nursing spots at the Lakeland College here in Lloydminster, a Bachelor of Science Nursing 4-year degree nursing program, where more nursing students will be able to take their online courses here, do their practicum at the Lloyd Hospital here, and graduate, and hopefully stay within our community.
That's huge.
It is huge.
That's huge.
It
That
is
was
huge.
back in November, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I remember that was huge. Sometimes it feels like in this area, it must be kind of, well, at least Garth has a lot more to deal with when it comes to healthcare right now. I think we hear a lot more in Alberta,
Yes.
living in the border city. And then we have Saskatchewan Health. But does it take some heat off you that Alberta's hot seats right now seems to be healthcare?
It is, but at the same time, we still have our challenges here. I mean, I think one of the things that I heard about just recently was our lab was closed over Christmas at the hospital for a number of days. I'm hoping it's open now. I haven't heard, but people get sick, and if you don't have a replacement in there, then you have to close those services for a short time until you can find somebody to take over. So I think we have problems just like anywhere else, but and I also had a great hour and 20-minute conversation with our Chief of Staff, Dr. Govender, about some of the issues that are at the hospital and how we can work locally to take care of ourselves. I mean, we can rely on the province to help us in many cases, but sometimes we just need to step up locally and figure things out.
I know that senior care is very important to you as well.
It is.
Have we seen any movement on any renovations or anything happening at any of the facilities in Lloydminster? Because I know that's a priority to you.
It is. Long-term care is a priority for me, and I'm glad to see that SHA has now started pushing as well, noting that we do have a significant backlog of spaces in this community. And that we do need a replacement for Jubilee Home. I worked diligently over the last year to secure some land for that, and I'm working with the ministers still on a long-term care facility and a hospice for this community, and I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that sometime in the very near future it will get on the books.
You hear about that a lot when you had to campaign.
You know,
was that a priority
it
for
wasn't
people in Lloyd?
not as much as I would have thought. People still are being placed not necessarily within this community. I think more of the challenges are that they're being placed in temporary spaces where temporary becomes longer than the families would hope. And that is the challenge. And that's why we do need a new long-term care facility, a 100-bed one I'd like to see here in Lloydminster as a replacement for Jubilee Home in the very near future.
Can you tell us where that land is?
Well, I have worked with Synovus, let's put it that way, on it. So it's in a very significant and key location, and I think it would be great to see it there.
Jubilee Home, would that be could it be repurposed, or is it just reached its end of life and needs to go?
The Minister Hindley, the previous Minister of Rural and Remote Health, was here back in, I want to say, June of last year and did a tour of it, and the place itself does not suit how we serve patients and how we serve seniors nowadays in long-term care facilities. So
it's not a problem with structure or anything like that?
Yeah, there are some structural things. It is over 60 years old, so I mean it has seen its span of life. It has had many renovations to it, but I think the actual facility itself doesn't serve the needs of the patients as we would like to see nowadays. For all the different levels that are there, and that's key. We now need to start looking at the different levels of care as people get into long-term care, not just independent, but as they progress through. And I think that's the new mode.
I can guess what the number one concern was when you were visiting with people was inflation, was the cost of everything, and I want to ask you about the decision to stop charging the carbon tax on heating fuel, on certain heating fuels, primarily natural gas. And then also we can get into a little bit about what you should do if you don't get that rebate, because or if you don't find you're getting money taken off your heating bill when you have electric heat. But has it been positive received in Saskatchewan, or have you received some pushback?
It's been very positively received. I think it's, when we put the Saskatchewan First Act in place, we knew that there were parts of the Constitution where the federal government was continuously intruding on policies that create detrimental harm to our resources, our natural resources, and we needed to push back strongly, and this is one of them. This is one of them where, a carbon tax has not done anything good to advance, our industries in this province, our resources in this province, and it added to the inflationary costs of living on a daily basis. And I think, people realize that the steps that we've taken as a government have, been bold and are probably still going to be challenged, and we realize that. But removing the carbon tax and the GST on the carbon tax, as a matter of fact, from home heating with regards to natural gas and electric was our first step in doing this. So,
when I listened to Scott Moe, it sounded like, when you guys challenged the carbon tax, it was was it the major reason that Saskatchewan was forced to have a carbon tax was because it was an even and level playing field right across the board?
It was never a level playing field, Kurt, and it never has been. I mean, if we even look at, something that we've talked about for years is equalization payments across this province. We get zero. Alberta gets zero. BC gets zero. We pay into everybody else's. 4.4 billion goes just our neighbor next door, Manitoba, and then millions more, and 13.6 billion to Quebec as we go across. And those are coming from our natural resources revenues that we are contributing to the federal government, and we receive nothing back. So, there's times where you need to say enough is enough. And these are some of the minor things and the things that we're doing to push back. And the carbon tax is one of them. It has not been beneficial in any way to anybody. And it has done more harm, as a matter of fact, to the major industries in this province, and that includes agriculture, right here in the area of Lloydminster, where farmers are seeing that, and that's something I heard as well, is that how do we stop this, because it is a huge expense.
If we base it on heating alone, like Atlantic Canada, a majority of people get a break there.
Yep.
We're using heating oil. We hear they can't have natural gas because of rock sediment and things like that. But it is more expensive to use heating oil. So the government, their argument is it's being offset because of that extra cost. How do you push back against that? Like, it's more there. You may have just answered this question.
We want to freeze in the dark, Kurt, do you? I mean, and electric most of our northern province is electric heat. They don't have the option to have natural gas, right, up there. So, I mean...
Yeah, same thing, rock sediment.
Absolutely. So we can't, we have to do something in order to bring those costs down. And the federal government doesn't recognize that, no different than, Atlantic Canada, they recognized it and they offset it. Well, why couldn't they have offset it? And particular for our northern folks, who have no choice. But even for us.
We have no choice.
We have no choice.
Yeah, it's the climate we live in.
It is.
We have no choice. Got to heat the homes.
Yes.
As far as the rebates go, we don't know yet whether the government of Saskatchewan will submit that carbon tax. Has there been any discussion on that?
Well, no, we're sitting on that one.
Because that'll come up in February, right?
Of course it will.
Yeah.
And as you know, we also put a tribunal assessment in place to look at the harm it is doing Saskatchewan. And I think that is key to where we'll be able to push back once, so we have forwarded those things to them to look through, and we have a really strong panel of 5-6 people that will look at all the things that harm those policies create for our province, and that's something that our Minister of Justice and Attorney General will be pushing back on the federal government with.
Do you anticipate that they will come and say there's not going to be any rebates for Saskatchewan because you're not charging a carbon tax on heat?
Well, I guess that's to be seen, because at this point in time,
you would have an idea, though.
They haven't said anything to us yet about it. Let's put it that way. Minister Guilbeault and whoever else down there, that is, saying that we're not playing in the same fair way as everybody else is, but they're not playing fair either. They're not treating every Canadian fairly, and that's the whole point here. We all need to be treated fairly when it comes to creating policies across this country.
How do they figure out electric heat? Like, how can they? Like, is it just a lot of people at SaskPower, a lot of accountants at SaskPower doing a lot of math?
SaskPower knows every nickel and dime that's spent on electricity in this province, and how many kilojoules are spent on energy in our gas sector, and they will have those numbers figured out for us and share them with us.
So I live on the Saskatchewan side, but and we talked about this not past September, but the September before, when Alberta issued a $50 rebate per month, I believe it was. They're taking $50 off. And there were some complaints in my neighborhood about, we're not getting that $50, and we pay, and we pay for Alberta.
And you're paying higher rates.
And paying higher rates.
Yes.
Exactly. But I actually had a good rate, and I came to you and I was upset because, shut these people up, because now I'm losing money because I locked in at a good rate knowing that natural gas, or figuring natural gas, is going to go up. So now I'm in the situation where this lady was in a situation a year ago, and I'm going, okay, now it's my turn to complain. How do I get my heat off? Is there anything?
So there are.
How do I get the carbon tax off mine?
In this province, or in this community, in Lloydminster in particular, where Sask Energy was late to the game. The lines that ran through were gas lines that were owned by Alberta, and still are. So there's, on the gas side of things, there are pockets on the Saskatchewan side in Lloydminster here where folks have no other option but to use an Alberta supplier, right, on the gas end of things. So there's nothing the government of Saskatchewan can do about that, and that is because they're not Crowns. They're privately owned companies that supply that gas, right? And
Yeah.
we own a Crown, so we can direct a Crown to what we want to see done.
Well, you know what was frustrating for me about that is we can't sell you the gas anymore because we're an Alberta company. And then I could only buy it from a different Alberta company. Like, it just drove me absolutely.
Yeah.
There's things that just don't make sense. But I've kind of accepted that living on the Saskatchewan
prices
side.
of-
I feel fortunate I don't have to pay the PST in Lloydminster.
Right. The prices of gas are, decided by the markets, right? And Sask Energy, if you are, I can tell you this though, if you are a Alberta Direct Energy, ATCO, whatever it is, gas is supplied to your home, but you live on the Saskatchewan side. If by September 15th of every year, you have an account, you call Sask Energy and you set up an account with them, they work with the Alberta provider in order to pay the difference in the rates. And I know that Alberta is quite significantly higher than Saskatchewan right now on their kilojoules, so they will offset those differences in cost, and you actually are only paying the Saskatchewan rate then on your bill.
Really?
Yeah, but you have to have an account with Sask Energy in order to do that. With Sask Power, on the electrical end of things, we can't do anything about it. That was an agreement that was signed with the city back in, I believe it's about 1938, that they have a solid contract in place. And so we're not involved in the contract. The city is. And so that's the only two players in that game. So we can't tell them to change that.
Okay, I want to ask you another question about affordability in just a moment. But first I want to tell you about Superior Water. It's not just a name, it is Superior Water. With 2 locations in Lloydminster, they're open on Sundays to make filling your big blue jugs a whole lot quicker. And if you want great tasting water right from your tap, you can call Superior Water and ask about their under the sink reverse osmosis systems. 780-875-6636. I drink Superior Water because I like the taste. I believe it is Superior Water. Superior Water open on 57th Avenue Monday to Friday 8 to 6, Saturdays and Sundays 10 to 5, and don't forget their coin-operated location, which is right next to 7-Eleven there on Highway 17 South. When it comes to affordability, we've seen Saskatchewan and now Manitoba take the provincial tax off of gas. Why not just do that, Colleen? Why not avoid this kind of tussle with the federal government and say, we're going to do what these provinces done and cut some slack to the people we can cut some slack to?
Well, Alberta did give break for a whole year almost.
Manitoba's
Yeah.
got 6 months.
Yeah,
Right?
and they've put it back on.
Yes,
and
they
I think
have.
you've seen the reasons why they've put it back on. I think you like your highways, you like your roads, you like your culverts, you like your bridges. That's where the gas tax goes. Every nickel of that goes back into, making sure our highways are in good shape. Our RMs get a portion of it, so they get to make sure our municipal roads are maintained and looked after as well. And bridges and culverts and all those kinds of things that allow our goods and our people to move across this province in the best way possible. And that's why we've left it there, because we know the importance of it and what it funds.
How about, and I've had some of this, and I know you're getting some of it too, people who heat their homes with propane. How do you help them?
Well, propane we cannot do anything about, and that is because they are private suppliers. We, as a government, have no authority to tell them to take off the carbon tax, to take off the GST or the GST on the carbon tax. That's up to those suppliers. And unfortunately, there are many rural customers in Saskatchewan, and particularly even in my area. I know there's lots of rural customers who use propane still, and unfortunately, there is nothing that we can do as a government to change that.
Similar to what Alberta, Daniel Smith said, because they don't have a crown corporation.
No, they don't.
In Alberta. Because
Yeah.
I think she'd be doing the same thing
Yes, if she could. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to move on to Bill 137, which we haven't had a chance to talk about.
Nope.
It's been so long. The one thing that came up that I had a conversation with the Lloydminster Sexual Assault Center here in Lloydminster. They're upset they can't get into schools and share their expertise and help students. Has there been some concession on getting, because I think most people would say that third parties going into schools, they would agree with that. And I thought I couldn't see a reason to have a third party go in until I visited with sexual assault services. And they convinced me they should be in schools. They just, like, I'll be perfectly honest, they were telling me about their numbers, they were telling me about what happens, what they do, and they convinced me they should be back in schools. I know they've had conversations. I know they've talked with you and tried to get back in schools. Where do you stand on that? Where's the Saskatchewan government stand on that?
Well, as we know, the Saskatchewan, had a special session in the fall for 2 full weeks and used the notwithstanding clause to put in Bill 137, the Parents' Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to speak to it, as a matter of fact, in the House on this, and I totally agree with it. As far as third-party providers and folks coming into the schools, that's been put on pause. They haven't been eliminated from it, and I know the Minister of Education wanted to work with the Ministry of Education in order to review each of those providers and ensure that what was being shared with students in the school or even with teachers was meeting our curriculum, and that it was appropriate for the ages of the children that they were doing it with.
Yes.
I was able to arrange with the Sexual Assault Center. Yes, I've had conversations with them, but I was also able to be in on a call with the Minister of Education and the folks from the Sexual Assault Center and assure them that we value and recognize the services that they're making. But until the minister and the ministry has had time to review all these, and they're trying to do it as quickly as possible. The service they provide is extremely important, especially to young children, and we recognize that. But I think there's a whole bit of pushback from parents who don't have an understanding, and I think that's just mostly it, is the services that are being provided by the third parties. I think parents need to have a better understanding of what that service is. There's some that are involved and have that understanding, and I've heard from them as well and know the importance of the Sexual Assault Center, but there's many who don't. And of course, so that's something that needs to happen. First, there needs to be an education to the general public of the third-party services provided to our students, especially our young students in the school.
I had a conversation with Adam Waterman and Tracy Kay with Integrity Oil. And Brian Zinchuk was in on that as well. So we talked a lot about power and a lot of conversation about where our power comes from and some of the emissions caps and things like that that are being put in by Stephen Guilbeault. And I want to ask you about those as well. But the thing that came up was Lloydminster would be a really ideal site for a nuclear power plant. Have you heard anything about Lloydminster being an area that could not only help Saskatchewan, but somewhat help Alberta as well? It seems like a perfect location with the North Saskatchewan River located where it is. Has there been talk about a nuclear power plant in this area?
There hasn't been a decision made on a definite one. There has been a number of sites that SaskPower and the committee that is reviewing nuclear SMRs in this province have been looking at. Lloydminster's name has not been on that list. I can tell you this at this point in time. It isn't just the river. There's road transportation. I had the opportunity. Yeah, rail transportation is important too, but I had the opportunity back in June to travel to up by McArthur River and tour the mines up there and get right down to the bottom and see how it's processed and brought out. And the amount, we are the second largest producer of uranium in the world. Yeah. 15% comes from here. So yes, it's key to our new energy source. Very important and really key to our new energy source. But there's a lot that goes into finding the right site and making sure that everything works well before things go happen. But I'm pretty sure Lloydminster is not on that list.
Would you say that one of the reasons it's not on the list is because of the pushback it received back a few years ago?
A few. let's go back a lot farther than a few. I think it was back in the early 80s or, when Brad, I guess 2007, when Brad Wall first came in.
Yeah, Bruce Power was here.
Bruce Power was here, and we had, there was a push by the Premier Wall at that time in order to see nuclear power developed to a greater extent in this province. And there was a huge pushback, but I think people, it's once again, it goes back to that education about things. And there has been such a strong advancement in technology. I was down in Pascal, Washington about 4 years ago and saw some of the development in the small nuclear modules. And man, they are so self-contained and no waste, and it's just a reusable product that comes out of it that can produce a significant amount of power. So we've advanced a long ways in technology, and then we've reached a stage, I think, in this province where it's time to start implementing this and using it as our alternative power.
But would you expect that there would be pushback, same as there was 2007?
I'm sure there's going to be some. There's no doubt. I mean, there's always going to be naysayers about anything, that I believe is positive or that others believe is positive. There's always going to be some negativity about it. But I think it's just about education once again.
I'm with you. I think it's the education.
It is.
Yeah, I think education is a huge part of it. I mentioned the emissions cap. There's now it's been moved up to 2035 where dealerships like the new LLoydminster Nissan won't be able to sell any combustion engines. There's been a lot of announcements. We've even heard such things as a tax on, and this will really, as I look up and see Cattleman of the Year, cow farts and cow burps and things like that.
Yep.
It just seems like the end of 2023 with COP28 happening, that we were just blasted in Western Canada with Stephen Guilbeault's extremism, is what I would call it. And I've mentioned that on some of our broadcasts before, so I don't think anybody would be surprised at that. What's your take on what's happening with our federal government and one thing after another seemingly aimed at Western Canada?
Well, harmful, destructive
Why?
to our economy,
Why now?
Kurt. I just think that the Prime Minister and his cabinet are focused on advancing an agenda that they started out with way back, and have decided we're going to, complete this, and those policies are harmful to us. COP28 was one of the best things that has happened to this province. We have stepped into our own. Our economy is doing really good. We are leading the nation on jobs. We are leading the nation on unemployment rates. We are leading the nation on retail sales and merchandise and foreign and international export products. Our numbers are going up, and it's because we are taking care of it. We have set up offices around the world and are working with those. COP28, we saw numerous industries come to the table that are very interested in what we have here. We have 23 of 31 critical minerals in the world right here in this province, and we need to get those to other parts of the world so they can be used to create and manufacture and sell products as well. And I think that's something we have to keep pushing, is the fact that we can be a leader in this country, and that we are going to keep our economy moving forward and take care of our own people in our own way. And I think that was key, and COP28 has shown that. We had many interested parties. Our room, as we heard from the Premier, was packed at all times, and there was agreement signed from other countries.
I heard Justin Trudeau over the holidays say that housing is not a federal jurisdiction. It's interesting to me that he brought up what is jurisdictions, because in Saskatchewan we feel that they're overreaching on what isn't their jurisdiction.
That's right.
When it comes to
and yet we got kicked out of the housing industry. We didn't get a penny.
So how does the government of Saskatchewan help a community like Lloydminster? And we're not the only ones that are seeing so many encampments and homeless people, and it has become such a big issue here in other places. Edmonton just had has fires regularly at their encampments and things like that. But and we've seen in Regina as well. How does the provincial government, where is your jurisdiction in helping with
We
that?
have stepped up and added through our social services and through our housing programs and outreach, and with our like the interval home, we have reached out to those societies and supported them in any way possible that we can. As a matter of fact, before Christmas time here, I had a great long conversation with Becky Schill, with the Olive Tree, and with the mayor, and looking at some of the options that are available and things that they can apply for to help with our homeless and our shelters here in Lloydminster. And I have to tell you that the Olive Tree and Becky Schill has done an amazing job. She has worked with Sask Housing to house a number of folks and to get them set up so that they're becoming more responsible for their own actions and for the things they're doing, and working also with our addiction center. As we all know, the Slimthorpe Center back in the spring was shut down for a long period of time as Alberta Health Services revamped the management there and the services that were being provided. And then in August, Saskatchewan, who only had 3 spots, addiction spots and mental health spots at the Slimthorpe, has now been offered 15 that we are funding. I'm not sure the services are in place yet because they were working through the agreements on it, but it will be very helpful for this area. And yes, working with the city and the mayor on how do we support those folks that are most vulnerable and needed has been a challenge. We have seen increased numbers in our community. Drugs, alcohol, mental health issues has been significant. But we are finding ways as a community and as a government to support the programs that are helping those people.
Is there anything else, Colleen, that did you want people in this area to know that you're working on, or?
Yeah. As I said, healthcare is
Healthcare
a
is
big one.
the big one.
As I said recently, I did meet with the Chief of Staff, Dr. Govender, and working through some of the things that we could probably push back on the government with regards to services at our hospital in particular. There are some challenges there. There's no doubt. There's a morale issue. And as well as, it isn't always just about staffing. It is just about scheduling. It is about, having people understand the services that are there. I mean, one of the things we all know is that we've also lost physicians in this community over the summer. So that also creates a backlog at the hospital when people can't go to a doctor and to a clinic, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've been working with the minister as well on looking at ways to revamp our immigration, our SIPA program, which is the Saskatchewan Physicians Immigration Physicians Program, which was a great thing when it was brought in back in 2007 and 8. But it's time to make some changes there to create some flexibility for a community so that we can get more qualified physicians back in our communities. So that's another key thing I've been working on, because we do need more physicians here.
We mentioned what happened in November with Lakeland College and 14 students.
Yeah.
When will you really see the results of that?
I think,
How soon?
we're going to see, there are students there. There are about 13 of them, I believe. This was a new 16 added. There is also already a pool of students there that were in their 2nd and 3rd year programs. Now they'll be able to complete that 4th year here. So we should see in another year, some of those graduates coming out who are here with their
Right.
families and will probably stay in the community. So that's a great positive. We need to see some nurse practitioners as well in our community, and I know there's been a strong pushback from our physicians, but I think some of them are starting to realize that there's value in it, and that's something we need to see here as well.
Thank you, Colleen. Appreciate your time.
You're more than welcome. I appreciate you having me, and I want to thank all my constituents for the trust and the that they have put in me to be their advocate, and I look forward to working with them on all of their issues again.
It's a huge year.
It is a huge year, but I know it's going to be a great year for Saskatchewan.
We know it's going to be municipal election. We know it's going to be provincial election.
Yep.
You want to take a guess on whether there's going to be a federal election?
I'm going to say no.
No.
I wish, but no.
Okay.
That's just my guess. But.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that. So Colleen had mentioned Becky Schill and the home base program that the Olive Tree has. We're going to find out more about that tomorrow, actually. Becky is coming on the show tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, right here at the Lloydminster Exhibition. We hope you can join us. Thanks again, Colleen.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kurt.